mighty armed one.
Kachasya
Kachasya
of Kacha.
of Kacha.
Bahaspatyasya,
Barhaspatyasya,
the son of the learned Brahmana and celestial priest Brihaspati.
the son of the learned Brahmana and celestial priest Brihaspati.
Shapat,
Shapat,
because of the curse.
because of the curse.
Yam,
Yam,
whom, Ashapam,
Ashapam,
accursed.
cursed.
Pura,
Pura,
in the past.
in the past.
So, translation and purport by His Divine Grace S.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
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 Because of falling in the well, I met you indeed. This has been arranged by Providence. After I cursed Kacha, the son of the learned scholar Brihaspati, he cursed me by saying that I would not have a Brahmana for a husband. Therefore, Almighty Armed One, there is no possibility of my becoming the wife of a Brahmana. Purport. Kacha, the son of the learned celestial priest Brihaspati, had been a student of Sukracharya, from whom he had learned the art of reviving a man who had died untimely. This art is called Mrita Sandivani. Was especially used during wartime. When there was a war, soldiers would certainly die untimely, but if a soldier's body was intact, he could be brought to life again by this art of Mrita Sanjivani. This art was known to Sukracharya and many others, and Kacha, the son of Brihaspati, became Sukracharya's student to learn it. Devayani desired to have Kacha as her husband, but Kacha, out of regard for Sukracharya, looked upon the Guru's daughter as a respectable superior, and therefore refused to marry her. Devayani angrily cursed Kacha by saying that although he had learned the art of Mrita Sanjivani from her father, it would be useless. When cursed in this way, Kacha retaliated by cursing Devayani never to have a husband who was a Brahmana. Because Devayani lacked Yayati, who was a Kshatriya, she requested him to accept her as his bona fide wife. Although this would be a Pratiloma Vivaha, a marriage between the daughter of a high family and the son of a lower family, she explained that this arrangement was made by Providence. Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagarita Shri Shakaritamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Niyamado Shakate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tatta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavane Jishavanu Sutede Pranamami Hari Panchakalpataru Yascha Kripa Sindhu Yascha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vishnudevo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Radha Shivasadi Gaura Govinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Oh my God, she already gave me one.
Haribol!
Thank you. Please give me your blessings, Mata. I already asked for blessings yesterday evening, but it's never too much, you know. Yes, through you, he will give me blessings. So it's rather very intimate because it's not a lot of us. So I'm just gonna speak openly and casually because it's not like I had so many days to prepare, so I won't be that serious in this talk. But I did have some time to prepare a little bit, so I have some notes here that I'm gonna use throughout the discussion that we're gonna have. So these are very interesting verses, and let me read the verse again. Because of falling into the well, I met you. Indeed, this has been arranged by providence. After I cursed Kacha, the son of the learned scholar Brihaspati, he cursed me by saying that I would not have a Brahmana for a husband. Therefore, Almighty, I am the one. There's no possibility of my becoming the wife of a Brahmana. So this is Devayani speaking to King Yayati. And we are in the chapter entitled King Yayati Regains His Youth. In the 9th canto, itself entitled Liberation. So as we have mentioned before, there's a reason why this canto is entitled Liberation. Because by hearing all these stories of the sons and daughters of kings and dynasties and all these lineages, we actually learn how in this material world everything is temporary. We are just passing by, you know. And therefore, this allows us to prepare ourselves to actually enter the more permanent, eternal, transcendental realm of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where we hear about the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. So, again, I have said this before, but I thought I could repeat it again because I thought it was so important to understand how to approach Srimad Bhagavatam. And Akshayananda Prabhu actually revealed this to me when I asked him how to dive deeper into Srimad Bhagavatam. And he said this is like that Srimad Bhagavatam is like a flower, and our honeybee-like mind should hover around that beautiful flower to extract its nectar so that we can make it into sweet honey. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is meant to be relished, tasted as such. You know, it's not really a philosophical exercise or where we have to kind of like try to intellectually understand it. We have to, in a sense, but we also have to realize it within our hearts. So, I remember Yashomati Nandan actually told me that he went to South Africa, you were going, and on the way you had a transition in Rwanda. Yeah, and there he tried the best honey that there was, he told me. So I am from Rwanda, by the way. This is the place where I was born. And apparently that honey was very, very sweet, very raw, you know, from the forest. So, because I'm not qualified, unfortunately, I will not be able to extract as much from this Srimad Bhagavatam and give you the best honey, but you're gonna have some low-grade honey, at least. You know. Jai Shri Jai, Radha Parisisvara ki Jai, Jai Sachi Sutta ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki Jai. So, how do we get onto the process of actually chanting Srimad Bhagavatam? It's within the association of devotees. So we are buzzing around and actually hearing. So Shravanam, then chanting, Kirtanam, and then Shmaranam, remembering. So by this simple process, you actually can enter deep into the verses, the meanings of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, that's it for the introduction. So I decided to actually call this discussion The Rise and Fall of Kings and What They Have Forgotten. And the reason why is because we are hearing about the rise of King Yayati. But before him, the story of King Yayati, we also hear the particular story of his own father. So this story of King Yayati happened about, let's say, 2.6 to 2.16 million years ago in Tetra Yuga. And the reason why I know this is because I looked it up. And we hear that before this story, we hear about the story about King Pururav and how he becomes completely enchanted by this Apsara, Urvashi. And therefore, in that particular story, we learn that also it is in the time of King Pururav that the fire yagya, fire sacrifice, actually has been introduced in Tetra Yuga. Because he wanted to go join his counterpart, Urvasi, in the heavenly planets, but because he couldn't, because he was human, he had to actually perform this incredible sacrifice that was inspired to him by the Paramatma within the heart in order to attain the celestial plane. So, and this, Srimad Bhagavatam said, it happened in Tetra Yuga. And following that story, now we come to King Yayati. So it's around the same time. So, a long time ago. So, in those days, kings were very, very powerful. They used to conquer planetary systems. Srila Prabhupada is actually telling us, we heard in his class yesterday, that nowadays, powerful men, may want to conquer, the neighboring country, like Russia tries to conquer Ukraine now. But Prabhupada says actually kings in those days were so powerful they could conquer entire planetary systems. So you can imagine how powerful they were. He actually gives the example of Bali Maharaj. That Bali Maharaj was so powerful because he had devotional blood, he said. He was the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. That he was able to conquer all the heavenly planets and actually kick Indra out of his own seat. So by hearing about those kings, now we hear about the father of King Yayati, who was Nahusa. So Nahusa also as a very powerful king, was in his position of ruling the earth. But at that time, during the same time, what happened is that King Indra had in a conflict, a fight with Vritrasura. And within that fight, King Indra killed Vritrasura. And because King Indra killed Vritrasura, and Vritrasura was actually a Brahmana, he was burdened with the sin of Brahmahatya, so killing a Brahmana. So King Indra had to go into hiding for thousands of years. So he created a power vacuum. So in the heavenly planets, there was no one in the seat of King Indra. So what the sages did is that they went to look for who could replace King Indra while he is gone. So they went to look and they met with Nahusa and they thought this is a very powerful king. Not only he has mystical powers, he's a righteous king and so on. So therefore he can take the position of King Indra like that. So Nahusa, when he was requested to take that position, he was actually very hesitant in the beginning. He didn't really want to take such a high position as King Indra. But eventually he accepted. And this is where we're going to hear about pride and how this leads to a fall down. So as he started actually getting accustomed to the lifestyle of King Indra with all the opulences that are there in the heavenly planets, he, at the same time, he started becoming very attracted by the wife of King Indra, Sachi. So he thought she was very beautiful, and therefore he made some advances towards her, but she was completely shocked by this behavior. So she went to the sages and reported that behavior. So because he was becoming very puffed up of his position, now he thought himself to be the most powerful personality in the whole universe. He started becoming very puffed up, and he tried to disrespect the Brahmanas. So if there's one mistake we should not do is to disrespect the Brahmanas. Because as we heard, it's only curses after curses and everybody's cursing everybody and then there's no end to it. So there's one particular verse to actually kind of like explains the position of Nahusa in Bhagavad Gita is Bhugaivara Prashaktanam Taya Parita Chetasam Vyavasa Etmika Buddhi Samado Navidyate. That those who are completely bewildered by material opulences, actually, within the heart, there's no possibility of bhakti or devotional service unto the Supreme Lord to manifest. So the same thing happened to the king Nahusa, that he was so bewildered by the material opulence that he was cursed by the Brahmanas. So by this curse, he became a python. And the story goes that one day he was being carried on a palanquin by these different sages, and one of them, whose name was Agatya, was kicked by the king Nahusa. And because he was kicked, he was telling him, Sarpa, Sarpa, which means move, move. And therefore, he cursed him to become a serpent. It's kind of close the wording, Sarpa, Sarpa. You shall become a serpent now. So he became a python. So, but I kind of looked it up because it's not the end of it. Later on in the Mahabharata, it's also told that the Pandavas, they go on to meet this python. This python at some point, calls around Bhishmadev, and you can, at some point, if you have something to add, Mataji, please do. And after having a conversation as well with King Yudhishthira about what is a Brahmana, what are the Brahmanical qualities, and so on and so forth. So finally, King Nahusa was liberated. So again, liberation. So this whole story is to say that we should be aware of not offending not only other devotees, other Brahmanas, but also devotees in general, because that puts us in a very dangerous position. So although it says in Bhagavad Gita that once we have made progress in the path of bhakti, we can never lose our progress, but it can still be covered by Vaishnava aparat. So by committing a Vaishnava aparat, our entire progress in bhakti can be completely covered. And that is a very dangerous situation, because that is therefore called by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the mad elephant aparat. Like that. So but those curses sometimes are good curses, the benedictions actually. For example, without the curse of Shringi, the boy, without having cursed Parikshit Maharaj, we wouldn't be hearing Srimad Bhagavatam right now. So we hear that the curses of the Brahmanas actually have benedictions hidden into them as well. So, talking about so many kings, therefore, that we see that rises within Srimad Bhagavatam then fall, I wanted to talk a little bit also about the story of King Chitraketu. Because King Chitraketu, who was also a great personality, had this strong desire of having a child. He couldn't have a child. So therefore, Narada Muni came to him and he requested him to actually award him a child. And after Narada Muni warned him that yes, you can have a child, but this child will be at the same time the source of your happiness, but then the source of your lamentation. So the king, because he was so ecstatic by hearing the news, he just heard the first part, that this child will be the source of your happiness. He forgot the last part because he passionately wanted to have a son so bad. So then Narada Muni accepted to help him, and he granted him a child. So when that child was born from his first queen, what happened is that the other queens, because he had so many different queens, became jealous. They became completely envious of that first queen, because obviously she was receiving more attention because she was the one who bore his first son, and therefore they kind of like went behind the doors, and you can imagine how these things go. They started plotting against the principal queen, and then they prepared some poison, and then they killed the baby born son. So then the king was in such distress and lamentation that the whole kingdom was as well, crying and depressed. So when Narada Muni came back, traveling as he usually does, he saw the state of the whole kingdom and went to see King Chitraketu and asked him, what happened? What is going on? Why are you lamenting so much? He said, I have lost my son. And now he was requesting Narada Muni, since you are the one who actually gave me this benediction, but then I have lost my son, you should bring him back to life. So please bring him back to life. But contrary to the one mystical power we just learned here of the Mrita Sanjivani, that the sages could learn to bring dead bodies back to life. Narada Muni, in a sense, we may say that have used the same mystical power to bring the sun back to life. So when the son came back to life, and he saw his two parents, King Chitraketu and his wife, he inquired as to who they were, because he had no idea of their identity. So the difference is that this child didn't just come back within his body, but he came back within his actual spiritual constitution. So what happens is when the king, Chitraketu, actually asked if the child remembered them, the child responded, which one of you are my parent? Because he had so many different parents in his different lifetimes that he couldn't actually remember who they were. And so the king understood about the temporality of the body and bodily attachments. So immediately by this story he became sober. And that was all a machination of Narada Muni also to help the king, obviously. So after that, Chitraketu became a self-realized sage and started traveling around the entire universe, And one day he came about the sitting place of Lord Shiva, Parvati, and by seeing them, he found the situation very funny. And the reason why is because Shiva was surrounded by an assembly of sages and had his wife sitting on his lap, which is unheard of. So the king, seeing that, although he was a self-realized soul, thought it was very funny, so he just started laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing. But of course, the wife of Shiva thought that he was mocking them. Therefore, what she did is that she became very offended, And we hear about such unintentional offenses that sometimes it happens in our Vaishnava communities, like the story of Rupa Goswami as well, offending that one crippled Vaishnava. Anyway, so what she did is she cursed the king Chitraketu, another curse, to become a demon, an asura. So that's where we come to the point of Vitrasura. And Indra killing Vitrasura, and therefore Indra losing his position, and therefore King Nahusa taking his position, in other way to the story of Yayati. And because his father was cursed to become a python, Yayati has to assume that throne. So now we're getting into where we are, the story of King Yayati. So King Yayati marries Devayani, but also he marries Shamishta, and they have this kind of frenemy relationship. I don't know if you heard this word before, but they're like friends but enemies at the same time, these two girls. As you heard in the previous verses, actually they had a misunderstanding, and therefore Shamishta took Devayani and threw her into the well. So later on we learn that to get her revenge, what Devayani does is she goes to her father, like a good daughter does. So she goes to her father and complains about what happened with Shamishta, And therefore they go to the father of Shamishta, because at that time Sukracharya was the father of Devayani, and he's very attached to his daughter. Srila Prabhupada explains that the greatest attachment we find in this material world is the attachment between a father and his daughter, So she agrees, you're like, this is correct. And because of that reason, Sukracharya went straight to curse the father of Shamishta. But understanding this, immediately he came outside of the house and paid his obeisances and asked for forgiveness. So in that sense, he pacified Sukracharya. And by pacifying Sukracharya, he said that I will give you anything you want, And therefore Sukracharya tells, whatever my daughter desire, then in order to rectify the situation, you may be obliged to do that. So therefore, Devayani, to get revenge, said, okay, now I will go and get married with King Yayati, but Shamishta and all her girlfriends have to come with me as my servant, and they will have to serve me as slaves, basically. You know. So this is how the story happened, and how actually they go on to live in the same palace. But what happens later on is that Shamishta approaches King Yayati to also get a son, because she was desiring to have a son, and Vedically speaking, it is the duty of the king, if one of his female servants wants to get a son, to actually provide a son for her. So, but Sukracharya had warned King Yayati, you should not lay in bed with Shamishta. That is the only thing you cannot do, you know. But he, bewildered by his own lust, you know, he completely forgot his memory and lost his intelligence, and therefore laid with Shamishta and got her son. And after on, Devayani learned about this situation, and she became completely furious. And again, what happens is that we understand that this ongoing conflict actually goes on all the way to the battle of Kurukshetra between the Pandavas and the Pauravas. And the reason why is because Devayani actually had two sons. One is Yadu and Turvasu. Yadu will give us the dynasty of the Yadus. And then we have Druya and Puru, and Puru will give the dynasty of the Pauravas, who will give the Kauravas. And therefore this conflict has been there like since time. We see that, you know, it has a connection there. But anyway, the important thing to remember here in the story of the king Yayati is that lust is a very dangerous thing. And especially Srimad Bhagavatam actually teaches us that one should be aware of the beauty of a woman. So just a huge disclaimer here, whenever I say women here, it does not mean Vaishnavis. Because what Srimad Bhagavatam says in terms of like our conditioned state in this particular body, you know, and sometimes Srimad Bhagavatam uses very strong cutting words, you know, one should not take it for, you know, to be for himself, you know, in that sense. So actually Srimad Bhagavatam explains that although women may be very beautiful and talk sweetly, what happens is that their heart is actually like a razor blade that it can cut very sharp, you know. And therefore, it would be a mistake to put one's trust into a woman. But don't just take my word for it. It's Urvasi herself who tells that to King Pururav when he starts following her all around the world, all around the earth. So to say that actually the beauty of woman is a very dangerous thing. And we've seen it like through the entire history of humanity. So you probably have heard of the Trojan War. Anybody had heard of this Trojan War? The Trojan War. Trojan. La guerre de Troie.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you heard about it, yes?
I didn't
So
know the name in English.
yeah, the Trojan War.
Yeah.
So what was the reason of that war?
Ellen.
Ellen. So this very beautiful princess, Ellen, who was actually the wife of a king in Sparta, Menelaus, was kidnapped by the prince of Trojan. And yeah, Paris, his name. Exactly, like Paris. So because of that, this whole war started. And we see that throughout history, that because of the beauty of a woman, actually we'll see great wars being started. But not just that, you know. Devotees may say that one of the reasons, or one of the tipping point of why the war of Kurukshetra started was because of the disrobement of Draupadi, this humiliation. That was like the tipping point. It was like too much. After everything that the Pandavas had gone through, this particular humiliation was like, no, we can't deal with this anymore. You're gonna have to come and fight. You're gonna have to enter into a war. So again, you see that the position of a woman is very important. And if women are protected generally within our societies, daughters, in that way, then the whole society will become blissful. It's very important to understand this particular fact, that the position of a woman is very important. So another example also is given that throughout many wars, women have been used as spies, and the reason why is because they have this particular asset of bewildering men and killing very highly positioned, leaders or rulers like that, because they wouldn't be suspected like a man would usually be suspected. So now going to the conclusion of the story of how many kings will rise throughout history and fall, many rulers, we come to the present times actually, and we have seen many rulers actually rise and fall as well. We have so many examples of those, like Caesar, we have Napoleon Bonaparte in France, But now, today, we have Mr. Trump as well, who wants to rise to power and keep his power. He's actually challenging election, actually saying jokingly that he may cancel the elections. So these kind of things are happening. So some people may take it as a joke, but this is the symptoms of Kali Yuga. This is very serious. And as time goes, things will be more and more degraded, and we'll see this type of personalities, small demons, actually take more power and try to consolidate this power. So, and the one thing they have forgotten, and as the title indicated, the rise and fall of kings, and what they have forgotten is that our true position in this world is actually that of the servant of the Supreme Personality of God. So another story important with Jada Bharat, when he's speaking to Maharaj Rahu Gana in Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 5, he explains that the relationship between king and subject is only talks about material activities. And that the main thing is to understand actually our relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because one day one may be a king, but the next day one may be a slave. And it happens like that actually, through the laws of karma. So by these stories, we should become sober and understand about the temporality of our positions, and actually try to realize our true position as eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that was basically my conclusion, remembering Krishna through this process of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and Evam Parampara Praptam Imam Rajarshayo Vidu, and the reason why this transcendental knowledge is actually passed down through the disciplic succession onto saintly kings is because they have duty as rulers, and that every ruler should know the science of Krishna consciousness in order to make society blissful and yeah, in that sense. Okay, that is it for me. Sorry. So if you have any thing you would like to add, commentaries or questions, that would be welcome. We still have about 10 minutes, so that's more than enough time. Anything about kings, about beautiful women, about wars, about our state of affairs nowadays, what is going on within the world, if any of you know about what is going on, and what do you think about any of this? Have you realized who we are? Yes, Mata.
Okay, just I want to thank you for the beautiful class. Although you said I didn't prepare, it's wonderful class. Thank you very much. And also to thank you what you express about the differences between Vaishnavi in our movement and the statements in Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita in Prabhupada's time. At one point, the leaders or the boys, when they read all these statements about ladies being Maya and all these bad qualities, it made a bigger problem in the movement. And it came to Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada confirmed what she said. He said, actually, ladies in our movement, they are like angels. It's this applies to materialistic women. Of course, we have to be careful.
Yes.
And while being in the body of ladies, we have to behave properly. But it's really nice to express that. And I have one question, if you can elaborate. So you said, by committing a Vaishnava aparad, our devotional progress is not destroyed but covered. So can you elaborate a little? Because
I may try to elaborate, Mata.
because often we heard it's actually, it can be destroyed. But this is really interesting, so you may elaborate.
Yes, I may try to elaborate. So this is my understanding on how we can we reconcile seemingly contradictory statements we see within scriptures. So on one part, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that once one has made progress in devotional service, that devotional service can never be checked, actually. It can never be destroyed. And then on the other part, it says that if we commit Vaishnava Aparad, therefore, as you have heard sometimes, it may be described as that our devotional life is completely destroyed. And my understanding is that the word destroyed is employed there to actually kind of create this sense of urgency, that it is a very dangerous position to be in when we commit a Vaishnava Aparad. You know, it's a very strong word, destruction, you know. But in order to reconcile those two statements, we can only reconcile them by understanding that actually it's not completely destroyed, but it is only covered, actually. And generally speaking, we understand that our eternal relationship with Krishna is always there within us, anyhow. So we have this dormant love of God that is there within us. It's just covered by ignorance. Therefore, the whole process of Krishna consciousness is to reawaken this dormant love for Krishna. Problem is, throughout that process, if we commit Vaishnava Aparad, then we may be again covered by this ignorance. And my understanding is that although we may commit all kinds of sinful activities, all kinds of different, or may be neglectful, all these different types of things, this has no, let's say, power or way to actually check our devotional service per se when we are practicing properly, when we are chanting Hare Krishna properly and following the rules and regulations and things like that, So there's no question of fall down in that sense. The Vaishnava Aparad, which is described by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the mad elephant aparad, is definitely something very dangerous because it's directed towards another Vaishnava. So in that sense, even Krishna himself says that there's not much he can do when it comes to a Vaishnava aparad. That the only way we can actually get rid of a Vaishnava aparad is go beg at the lotus feet of the one we have offended for forgiveness and to serve them like this. And we may have a way of actually being free of that. And recently I just heard also that a Vaishnava aparad is something is so dangerous that actually it's like hitting a nail into a wood. That although you may be able to take out the nail or take out the aparad by doing, offering obeisances and service to the one you have offended, still there will be the traces of where the nail has been. So it is that dangerous that it still there's still some residue of the aparat even afterwards. You are forgiven by the particular Vaishnava that we have offended. So it's a very dangerous situation to be in. This is as much as I can say about how it is covering us again, but not destroying our bhakti per se, because bhakti in itself is completely transcendental and eternal and cannot be destroyed by anything. Completely independent as well. So the word destroyer, as I understand it, is used to actually warn us, to kind of like when a child is, committing some mistakes or something sinful, let's say, the parent will use very strong words to try to check the child. If you keep doing that, there's a monster who will come and eat you. Like in that sense, that to actually make us more careful of not committing Vaishnava aparat, because then we may lose our progress in spiritual life, but we don't really lose it. Just comment like this. I hope that is okay. If anyone else has something to add, maybe with.
Madhurya Kadamini and also Chaitanya Charitamrita explained a more metaphorical view of the Bhakti Lata.
Yes.
The Bhakti Lata growing, and the mad elephant Vaishnava Aparat is acting as uprooting the Bhakti Lata, and while the Bhakti Lata is uprooted, it is drying up. Which is how it is explained.
Okay. Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful. And what is I assume afterwards he explains how this can be revived again.
Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that we have to use fences. We have to make a fence
around
to protect.
So exactly. So this mother elephant doesn't destroy it.
If I understood correctly, the question is, when it is uprooted already, what is then the situation? To revive it. That's your question, the question you just asked. So then, because the fences are more to protect.
To protect it when it's still there.
One,
Yes.
That is still there. But
Yes.
when it is uprooted.
Yes. What is the process of
what's
revival?
the process of revival?
That's a good question. Anything on that?
We need Narada Muni.
So in Madhura Kandivini, it is explained that actually the only way to come to the platform of bhakti, or the only way we can actually develop that bija of bhakti, is by the association of those who have it. That bhakti there is actually completely independent. She cannot be caused by anything. Only by the mercy of the Vaishnavas can we actually, have this Bhakti Lata Bij planted within our heart, and therefore grow it into prema. So one may say, in that sense, that the same way that in the first place, it is only by the mercy of the Vaishnava that we had this Bhakti Lata Bij in the first place, that if it is uprooted, what will be the solution? Well, again, it will be the mercy of the Vaishnavas, in that sense. That it is the only way to actually not only have it planted, but also cultivate it and allow it to reach it to full maturity, to Krishna Prem. Because it's not that at some point we leave the association of Vaishnavas. Like we have seen in the story of Jada Bharat, even if you're on the level of Bhav, it's not at some point that I'm so advanced, or that this beautiful plant of bhakti has so much advanced that we can just ignore the association of devotees or Vaishnavas. We should seek always the association of Vaishnava, but at the same time be careful of not offending them.
One connection with our daily practice of japa.
Mhm.
That it is said that the root cause of all the other offenses leading to the the Vaishnava parat, sorry, is actually attention. No?
Attention.
So on a practical level, we can ourselves every day work on improving the quality of our chanting, being more and more attentive.
Yeah.
And you may have this experience that some days you are more attentive than others, no?
Yeah.
And so these days, the day is going more towards the relationship with devotees, with surroundings, not smooth in a way that, oh, it's easy today and that's why we should chant. No, but it's, you feel more sensitive to others, you feel more able to see Krishna's hand behind any difficult situation, this kind of things. So therefore you are less inclined to offend Vaishnavas and to be in a proper consciousness. And the other point I wanted to share is that fortunately Vaishnava Bharat can be conscious or unconscious also.
Yes.
So definitely yet to build this big, how do we say, rampart in English? These fences, yeah, these fences is quite crucial, and to be proactive, preventive rather than reactive is, I think, a good way to really protect this growing Bhaktilata beach and the association of devotees. And so for that, keeping association, keeping always the meaning of what we are doing before we start some services, this and that, just remembering what we are doing, how fortunate and mother of qualities is gratitude. So always be grateful for what Srila Prabhupada gave us, for the association we have, for where we are serving, be it at home, in the temple, wherever. How possible would it be without Srila Prabhupada? And if we keep this always in our heart, naturally, oh Prabhupada, thank you for everything, then you can just consider, okay, this devotee, okay, is doing like this, but it's not a reason to, be on his case, on her case so strongly, and so, okay, like Vaishnavas are just a little crew in this world, so very special jivas. So let's take them as a blessing, a real blessing of Krishna, through Srila Prabhupada, and nurture this relationship with them rather than pointing, rejecting, which is a quite natural tendency we have. No? When something is not fitting our plan, then okay, get out of the way, you are disturbing my plan.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. I think we have reached the time. Thank you and for tolerating me. I really appreciate. This is my last day here in Paris, and my last day talking to all of you and sharing some Harikatha with all of you. So I'm extremely grateful to have passed the past few days here with amazing Vaishnavas and having an association and like Jiva Prabhu said. Being able to serve Radha Parisisvara again. And every time I come here, I see there's a lot of progress going on, and I'm very happy for that. That's, you have a wonderful team, and yes, hope I can come back and see this temple flourish more, and to be able to serve all of you again and again and again and again.
Haribo!
Jai Prabhupada ki Jai, Antara Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Jai
Jai!
Prabhupada.
Jai Jai!